Today, I will share with you guys my study and revision strategy that made me pass all the 14 ATPL exams in the first try with 95% score and always kept me ahead of the curve. I will show you not only how to ace your ground school subject, but also how to progress through your flying syllabus effortlessly. Hi everyone, thanks for clicking and welcome back to my channel. This video will be divided into two parts. The first part will cover how to efficiently study and prepare for your ATPL ground school. And by the way, this also applies if you are doing the model program. And part 2, I will show you tips and hacks for your flying phase. Before we get started though, I would highly appreciate if you consider helping the channel grow by subscribing and giving this video a like. So without any further ado, let's hit the books. Let us first cover the ground school phase. Number 1. First and foremost, read ahead. I cannot stress this enough guys, if tomorrow is your first day or you'll be covering a new chapter, take some time the night before and read as much as you can about the topic you will be discussing. It doesn't have to be the full chapter, just enough to develop an idea of what to expect in class. The last thing you want is your instructor talking about RMP and you in your head thinking if it's some sort of chocolate bar. By reading ahead, you will have questions, and most likely the next day you will have those questions answered. And not only that, when you have the basics, you will have more time in class to dig deeper in a certain topic rather than keep wasting your time and money trying to understand, for example, the difference between magnetic north and true north. Tip number 2, ask. Never be afraid or feel shy from asking questions. You are paying tons of money to learn, so make sure you learn. Nobody knows everything and don't expect your instructor to know everything or answer all of your questions. Whenever you ask a question, make sure you ask many instructors. Ask your colleagues too. I know many instructors out of their ego and dignity, they even give BS answers to students instead of saying, let me check and get back to you. In aviation, the amount of knowledge is tremendous, which makes it difficult for us all to remember everything. Whenever you have a question answered, make sure you write it down in a notebook so you don't forget it. And this leads us to point number 3. Notebook. It's of paramount importance to keep a notebook or a diary. Every time a question pops up in your head, you write it down and leave a few lines beneath it for the answer. When you get the answer, also write it down. This way you will always remember the important questions or doubts and every single piece of information that's worth remembering. You probably have never heard of this before, but all the ground school knowledge you will learn and all the progress tests you will ever attend in real life as an airline pilot, you will only use 10 to 15% of it. So you better focus on the things you will need rather than what you just have to use to pass your exams. This again leads to the next point. Question bank. When it comes to successfully completing your pilot training, there are two paths equally as important that you must follow. First, you need to pass your 14 ATPL subjects with 75 passing score or higher. And number 2, you have to have standard to above standard knowledge about aviation in all the 14 subjects. You cannot become a pilot with only one without the other. What do I mean by that? Well, let me elaborate. The structure of all ATPL exams is based on techniques more than they are based on knowledge. That is why you must practice as much as possibly can to answer those multiple choice questions. Let me tell you this guys, if you think I am a special student, I have enough knowledge, blah blah blah, and I don't need to practice questions, I can assure you, you will successfully fail and fail and fail. In order to pass your exams, you need to practice the ATPL questions as many times as possible. Say for example, you are not strong at a certain subject. What do? Memorize. Simple as that, just memorize the question bank, period. This way you guarantee yourself that you will pass. Now what? Well, you cannot just become a pilot by memorizing, can you? That's where the second path comes in play. Understanding, researching, asking questions, developing that knowledge that is required, which will help you stand out whether during your oral exams or during your pilot interviews. Again, let me summarize this point because it's very important. You need to practice your flight school database or other EASA or FAA question bank so that you pass your subjects. Simultaneously, you must acquire that required pilot knowledge that you will need for the rest of your career, because with knowledge alone, you will not pass those tests. Point number 5, YouTube. Well, you might be wondering, what does YouTube have to do with my study plan? As a matter of fact, what I personally learned on YouTube is way more than what I learned in school or in my flight school for that matter. There are plenty of amazing educational channels on the platform that provide unrivaled aviation content, channels that focus on the right topics that every pilot must know rather than the BS stuff to be used in exams. For example, ATPL students here that you are watching right now, we make videos about important topics, tips and hacks, mental math, pilots, motivational videos and many more. Use YouTube to your own advantage when it comes to aviation. You will thank me for that later. Number 6, revision. Revision is very important to retain information, so just as the first point, read ahead, when you get back home you must revise what you have studied during the day. Make a summary, use a highlighter, highlight crucial paragraphs. Do that every day, and on the weekend, do another thorough revision of all what you have studied during the week. Then take a break, go have fun, and again the night before, read ahead. Point number 7, exams. How to ace every ATPL exam. Here's a trick. Assuming you possess a decent amount of knowledge, every question has got 4 choices. 1 is completely wrong and has nothing to do with the question. 1 is wrong or incomplete. 1 could be right or conditionally right, or could be considered as incomplete as well. However, there is one that is completely right. So you are a good student, you know what you're doing, you eliminate the one that is completely wrong. With decent knowledge as well, you may be able to eliminate also the choice that is incomplete or wrong. Now you are left with 2 choices. 80% of ATPL questions, the right answer will be the longest of these 2 choices. Voila. But please use this trick only when you don't know the answer. First, you should always use your practice and knowledge. Here are a couple of apps to help you with your preparations. You can use the EASA ATPL or aviation exam. Congratulations for completing all your 14 subjects. Finally, after all the hard work, you get to fly. Now let's talk about how to effectively progress through your flying stage. Number 1 advice again is a notebook. This time a separate notebook, brand new one. Split it in 2. One part assigned to knowledge pertaining your everyday operations and key information that every pilot must know, and questions that are frequently asked in check rides. You learn any new rule of thumb or tip, make sure you write it down so that you can easily get back to it later. Number 2, make what I choose to call it mistakes tracker. What's a mistakes tracker? Well, the second part of the notebook, you could start it from the middle of the notebook if you want, or the other end of the notebook, whichever way you prefer. Most importantly, every screw up you make, every mistake you make, every advice given to you or comment, write it down. And make sure in your next flight you do your best to rectify that mistake. As you start to progress, the number of mistakes will start to pile up. However, as you are getting towards the end of your training, you will start noticing that your mistakes started to decrease. And not only that, all of your first mistakes and screw-ups will have been improved and learned from them. The takeaway from this point is to know your weaknesses and work on them. Number 3. Number 3 is a game changer for VFR navigation, guys. You are flying VFR, you have your navlog, nice and tidy, everything seems nice. Out of the blue, your instructors comes in and say, I need you to divert to so-and-so. Whatever. What do? Do you know what heading to fly? Do you know where the wind is blowing from? How long will it take you to get there? If you say, I will use my Garmin G1000, blah blah blah, not today. Most instructors will take away all those fancy features and you have to do it the old school way. Trust me, you will mess it up. That's why I need you guys to watch this video right here for VFR diversion technique. Believe me, it's a game changer. Point number 4, pre-flight planning. If one thing most flight instructors hate would be unprepared and students who are not ready. That's why if you are scheduled for a flight tomorrow, make sure you prepare the night before. Do all your mass and balance, takeoff and landing performance, VFR navlog. You can use the winds from an app called Windy. Also have a look at the NOTAMs, highlight the ones that will affect you and affect your route. If you have any difficulties decoding NOTAMs, I have made a video right here where I'll show you all about the NOTAMs and how to decode them, plus a bonus. Just click the link right here. Now you are ahead in your preparations. The only things left are that you check the take log of your aircraft and perform the walk around of your plane. And I presume there's no way you can do that from home, right? This way, when you arrive at the airport, you are 75% ready for your flight. Keep this in mind. If you fail to plan, then you are planning to fail. And last but not least, make a small checklist of necessary items that need to be with you all the time. And before you leave your house, cross-check and make sure that you have everything with you. And again, double-check one more time right before you head to your airplane. Last thing you want is to take off for a VFR navigation flight without a map or without a navlog. Guys, I'm serious, it happened many times with my colleagues before. Some forgot their maps on the day of their IR check ride. So save yourself the embarrassment and make a checklist. That's all I have for you today, guys. As usual, if you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Until next time, happy landings.